Here we go. Soaking and magnesium soak from Living the Good Life Naturally can actually be a foundational layer to help you transform generational trauma. That's a big claim, and I'm here today to back it up. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kristen. I am a magnesium advocate. I am not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing or prescribing. I'm sharing with you some things I've learned on my personal healing journey. Let's talk about trauma in the fact that when we experience trauma, we know what happens, we know what happened, and we're able to process it and let it go. Let's talk about generational trauma. For a long time, the alternative world talked about how you carried your mother's trauma, and the scientific world said, no, actually, you don't. Well, science is now showing that generational trauma does determine and dictate your epigenetics. What genes come forward and are active. It can increase obesity levels. It can increase diabetes. There's lots of studies to back that up now. When we experience trauma, cortisol goes up and magnesium goes out. And the downside of experiencing that trauma, besides the trauma itself, is that the very mineral that helps your body, your brain specifically, to create new synapses that don't have the pathway of trauma is diminished. I want to talk about that today and talk about the role that magnesium plays in plasticity and how it works, and talk about a giveaway, and hopefully really tap into some information and education that will help you connect and put some pieces together, maybe for yourself or maybe for people that you love. Number one, if you are sensitive to even hearing the word trauma and that's triggering for you, this might not be the best live for you. And remember, if while on this live and you and I are having this conversation, if it becomes too much, please set a boundary and tell yourself, I'm taking care of myself and I'm walking away from this live. And I'll celebrate that you did, because ultimately that's what it's all about. You and I making the best decisions for ourselves to stay in that place of balance and optimal health. When trauma is experienced, there's 3 parts of your brain that are affected: the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex. And when we have a response to trauma, it's fight or flight, where we want to fight the person, where we want to run from the experience, or sometimes we're stuck and we freeze and we just stay in that frozen state emotionally. When you have enough magnesium through soaking, and remember, soaking in magnesium in 1998, there was a study done that showed soaking in magnesium crossed your blood-brain barrier. I think number one question that I get asked after Epsom salts, after that one, is, but I have to take magnesium for my brain, and soaking my feet in magnesium, it's not getting into my brain. Haha, it is. Magnesium soak crosses the blood-brain barrier. And the very mineral that we need to create new synapses, we need magnesium to do that. And neurons communicate and go down those synapses. And if there's not enough magnesium there, we lose the plasticity in our brain. We lose our ability to see new pathways, new opportunity, new ideas. Because every time we think about the traumatic experience, we send a flow of blood to that area of our brain, and it just makes it easier to keep going down that same pathway. And that specific pathway of trauma has fear and anxiety in the pathway. When we have enough magnesium and we're creating new synapses for the neurons to interact with, at that point, we have a pathway being created without the fear, without the anxiety. We get enough of those created, and our brain, hold on, I need some water. Our brain is actually benefiting from being rich in magnesium because those new pathways are being born. It used to be that they thought the plasticity of your brain and aging happened. There was no way to walk away from it. Have you ever interacted with someone who has lots and lots of wisdom? They've lived a long, full life, and they kind of get stuck in their ways? That's a lack of plasticity in their brain. One of the key minerals to walk away from that lack of plasticity is creating a magnesium-rich environment. Soaking in magnesium, achieving cell saturation of 6.3 or above, so that your body and your brain, the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex, can relax and process through the emotions instead of being stuck in fight or flight or freeze. When you've experienced something, it's not easier. That's not the right word. You know what happened, and you have an ability to process through that. Let's go to generational trauma. I don't know everything that happened to my grandmother. I know she had some hard things in her life, but I don't know everything. And I'm carrying some of that trauma because we're connected through family ties. It's harder for me to let go of that trauma because I don't know what it is. And so setting your brain up to have the ultimate amount of plasticity and to have the ultimate amount of new synapses that are being created so that you have new pathways in your brain creates an easier pathway of resiliency, of you creating resiliency. And when you do that for yourself, you're passing that on also. It's not only the generational trauma that gets passed on, your resiliency that you created gets passed on to the next generation. Resiliency is that ability to bounce back after a hard thing has happened. It's the ability to see ways around it. Now, it doesn't take away that you need to mourn. I'm not saying just be resilient and nothing ever phases you. There's seasons in life, and there's a mourning period that needs to happen. It allows you to do that more effectively and to move on and not get stuck in that period of mourning. Having a brain that has plasticity allows us to pass on more resiliency. So, my question to you is, how is your resiliency? Could it be improved? Is that an area of your life that would enrich your life if your resiliency was higher? If your ability to bounce back, your ability to process through emotions, if that came easier, would it make emotional balance easier for you? One of my concerns and one of the reasons that I talk so much about magnesium is I'm concerned for a generation that's younger than I am. We've never seen the level of anxiety being experienced at such a young age as this younger generation is experiencing. Anxiety eats up our magnesium. When you experience anxiety, you have a very high magnesium burn rate. And the very mineral that will help you create new synapses is being lost during that anxiety. And so, making sure that people understand soaking in magnesium does cross the blood brain barrier. Soaking in magnesium will help you build those synapses for those neurons that communicate with each other, and it will help you build pathways from those synapses that do not have the anxiety written in, do not have the fear written in. It's a cleaner, smoother synapse for that neuron to communicate, is building better brain health for you. And the generations that have not come yet will reap the benefit of the work that you do. Where are you at when it comes to cell saturation? Have you reached 6.3? Have you had your blood work tested? Maybe right now is not the time. I always want to be respectful that maybe you're a casual soaker and right now you're just getting the benefits from magnesium and you're not concerned about cell saturation. Maybe you've thought about knowing where you're at magnesium wise and you just haven't followed through. Do the 30-day challenge and find out how your body is uptaking and utilizing magnesium. Because if after a 30-day challenge, you're not at a minimum of a 5, you have a crack in your foundation. And we need to go in and put together and figure out where the crack is so that your body is more effective at uptaking the life-changing mineral called magnesium. I would love to know. Leave your thoughts in the comments if you've tested your magnesium levels or not. I'm kind of taking some polls and seeing, do I need to talk about testing magnesium and what to do after, or are people just more interested in casual soaking? So leaving your comment is your vote for which pathway I take on future lives. And remember, this week and next week is my gratitude week for people who share my posts and my videos, people who leave comments and interact with me on my posts and my videos. So I'm giving away a 32-ounce bottle of magnesium, shipping it for free for a person every day this week. And is all you have to do is leave a comment, like maybe it's, hey, I was able to listen today to the live broadcast, or I'm listening to the recording and this is my takeaway, or hey Kristen, good to see you, or this live was lousy. I don't know, just that comment lets me know you're here. So many times there will be hundreds and hundreds of views, but I don't know who was there, and then I can't say thank you to you. So the comment helps me to know you're here. And you might be one of those people this week or next week. Today is May 24th, and I'll do it for the rest of this week up until Friday, and then all of next week, Monday through Friday. And I'll give away 1 bottle of magnesium to someone that is helping me build community. Because if it's all about just talking to a blank wall that I don't know people are there, the lives aren't as good. It's when you and I have that give receive cycle, that's when the lives are better because you're here. And so I need your help on that. They are. It is like a push-pull relationship. The very thing that you need the very most is the very thing that you lose when stress levels go up. Oh, you're so welcome, Sarah. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, Leanna. Oh, oh my goodness. It is so good to see your beautiful face. I have not seen you for a while, and it is so good to see your beautiful face. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so another thing that I really, hello, Sylvia. And Ashley, I haven't seen you for a while either. The other thing that I want to talk about today is a little bit of my journey and why I'm so passionate about this. And I think I'll do a better job than I did over on Instagram because I got a little too emotional. So here goes. I had trauma as a kid. And a lot of times when you experience trauma in as a child, there can be some after effects of that. And this is where I really messed up on my healing journey, and I made the journey longer than what it should have been. But I thought I was helping my family. And I want to share what I did so that you can understand how, when we have a thought and a pathway in our brain, if we keep going down that pathway, we're just making the pathway stronger because every time we have the thought, it lights up that area and that pathway with more blood flow and more oxygen. One of the things that I've experienced most of my life, not every day, but most of my life, is nightmares about the trauma. And when I would wake up, it happened so often that I would have to take a minute to be like, okay, did that happen? Or am I in a new place and safe? And I was diagnosed with what's called complex post traumatic stress disorder because to my body, it felt like it happened again. And I kept that from my family. I never told anyone. I thought I was protecting them because my family had already had the consequences of my trauma. And that was heartbreaking to me as a wife and a mom. And I didn't want them to have any more. So I kept that, this little secret that was just mine. And I felt like I was being so strong and so brave living through that most nights by myself. Guess what I did? Because I didn't let it out. I didn't process it. I didn't have magnesium at that point in my life. And so I didn't understand that I needed to increase the plasticity in my brain and that I needed to process that emotion. I made it worse. I just kept going down that pathway. I didn't use any tools. I just kept going down the pathway, going down that same pathway. I'd kind of just bear it and I'd carry it. And I can do this. I can work a little harder. I can be a little stronger. And I can do this because I'm protecting the people around me. And it got harder and harder and harder to hold. And that synapse, that pathway in my brain just got bigger and deeper and wider. Now, go to now, and I understand so much more about how the brain works and the synapses and the neurons and how they communicate and how I was actually re-traumatizing my amygdala, my prefrontal cortex, and my hippocampus. Those are the three areas of our brain that are hurt by the trauma. They're hurt when we go into fight or flight. They lose the blood flow and they can't process emotions as well when you're in that fight, flight, or freeze state. And so by holding that in and just working through it and trying to be stronger, I made my healing journey a lot longer. I made it harder on my kids and I made it harder on my husband. At the time, I thought I was doing my best and I thought I was helping. Soaking in magnesium And achieving cell saturation at 6.3 or above helps you to relax those parts of your brain, your hippocampus, your prefrontal cortex, and your amygdala. And when they're relaxed, they can help you process through that trauma so it doesn't become a dam like I created. I created this great big dam and I held the trauma behind it. And I just kept working harder and harder and harder and harder. And finally, the dam broke. And so by creating a magnesium rich environment with usable calcium instead of a calcium dominant environment with not enough magnesium, you're setting your brain up to build more synapses. And those synapses, when they're created now, they're created without the trauma of that older memory. And so it's like, think of a new clean pathway to go down every day instead of that old pathway. I'm passionate about magnesium for that very reason, generational trauma. I don't want my grandchildren holding my trauma. I want them to build resiliency. Well, guess what? The best way for them to build resiliency is for me to build resiliency. I'll pass that down genetically, and they'll also see a pattern in their grandmother of a grandmother working hard to build resiliency instead of a grandmother holding on to trauma. And to me, that's day and night difference. I would love to know. And a couple of you have shared, and I'm so grateful. Leanna, I think there's a thing underneath that you can go on to share the videos. I'm not sure on that. I'll have to look it up. The blood work on the 30-day challenge is fascinating to me because if you're not at a 6.3, but you've done the 30-day challenge and you haven't come in a minimum of a 5, we need to figure out the crack in your foundation so that you know that your body's utilizing that magnesium. Now, some people are casual soakers and they have no desire to understand or to learn about about their numbers. And so I'm just kind of taking a very informal poll. Are you a casual soaker? There's nothing wrong with being a casual soaker. Or are you a therapeutic soaker that wants to know how your body's using it? I'd love it if you would leave in the comments which you are, because that's really going to determine what I talk about the next couple of weeks. And I would love to share some magnesium with you. I am wanting to build be more focused and clear about building a community of support here on social media. And I'm just looking for people who help me. And I want to say thank you with a 32-ounce bottle of magnesium. Oh my gosh, Sarah just left. Thank you, Sarah, so very much. Sarah just left directions on how you can do that. Ashley, I love it. A casual soaker that wants to learn more. I love it. Mira, therapeutic. I love that. I love knowing where people add on that. And I also wanted to remind you that tomorrow I am doing a caddis. My glasses. My number one question outside of magnesium is, where did you get those cute glasses? And the company has been incredibly giving and sent me a whole box, more glasses than what I can wear. And I thought some of you might enjoy getting a free pair. So that's happening tomorrow too. Thanks for joining me today live. I've loved connecting with you. And my hope is that you're walking away with a little bit deeper understanding about the role magnesium plays in plasticity, trauma, and helping your brain come out of fight or flight and go back to that rest and renew where all the good things happen. Bye-bye.